Hello, Heero here, and today we're gonna look at Astra Yao, an Astra-nomical support that helps allies with their singing that provides a multitude of buffs and off-field attacks that help deal big BP damage. I'll be discussing her kit, builds, engines, and possible themes. Just as a quick disclaimer though, the footage and information that will be shown is from the Creator Experience server, so things can still change when her banner drops. Let's start with her skill, Wind Chimes and Oaths, which has two different versions depending if you hold the skill or not. And each variation of the skill attacks using tremulos, which are these lightning bolts hitting enemies. The tap version deals 1 tremulo attack, while the hold version gathers enemies and deals 1 to 4 attacks depending on how long you hold it. But most important of all, any variation of this skill triggers a quick assist and puts Astra Yao in the idyllic cadenza state. In the idyllic cadenza state, Miss Yao starts singing like a certain bird from another Hoyo game, meaning she cannot move, she gains a 40% damage reduction, and her anti-interrupt level increases. And when switching to another unit, Miss Yao stays in field singing and becomes invulnerable. Her attacks in this state also change, with her basic and dodge counters now dealing tremulo attacks, while her charge attack deals 1 tremulo attack with 3 tone cluster projectiles, while also activating her core passives buff. But the most important thing is that while she's in this state, she gets a party-wide 25% crit damage and 20% damage buff. And she gains the ability to activate her core passive's 1.2k attack buff. Damage and crit damage buffs are pretty much permanent as long as Astra Yao is in her idyllic cadenza state, so no need to worry about reapplying them. While in the state, she also gains the ability to use chords, which she gains for every 25 energy she has, with a max of 4 chords for 100 energy. And these chords do a couple of things. If she has at least 1 chord, it enables you to trigger an on-demand quick assist by consuming a chord and 25 energy, alongside fulfilling one of 2 conditions. First, if the controlled character hits an enemy, it'll trigger a quick assist once per 3 seconds. Second, if the controlled character hits an enemy with a heavy attack, like a basic attack 5, skills, or ults, it'll trigger a quick assist once per second. This of course makes quick swapping a bit more smoother, because with this, you only have to worry about swapping between 2 units instead of 3, and it also deals a bit more damage due to quick assists. Triggering a chain attack, quick, defensive, and evasive assist also consumes 1 chord, which results in Miss Yao launching 1 off-field tremulo attack that counts as an EX special. Miss Yao also has a unique assist called a Precise Assist, triggered by a chain attack, defensive, evasive, or quick assist if she has a chord, which has her launching 3 tone clusters. This totals to 4 off-field attacks from Astra Yao if you also count the tremulo attack she does when consuming a chord. Just like Bernice, these attacks can apply Ether Anomaly even if Astra Yao is off-field. Ideally, you never really want to exit the idyllic cadenza state since there's little to no benefits in doing so. But if you ever want to exit the state, there is 2 ways to do so. First is if you hold down the dodge button while controlling her, and the second is if you use her charge attack, which also activates her core passive's attack buff if you have at least 25 energy or 1 chord. But now moving on to her ult, Fantasian Sonata, which is a massive ether nuke that does a couple of things. First of all, it puts her in the idyllic cadenza state, then heals all allies for 2,950 HP and transforms the next 2 quick assists into chain attacks. This is the first ever skill in ZZZ that is not from a Bangbu that can heal party members, which is pretty good for players like me who are terrible at the game. But the notable thing is its ability to turn quick assists into chain attacks, which allows for more damage and is good for characters that benefit from chain attacks like Jane, Juyuan, or Harumasa. And finally, moving on to her core passive, Graceful Andante. This ability gives an attack buff with a cap of 1,200 based off 35% of Miss Yao's total attack for up to 30 seconds, to the character that switches in via the following methods. To activate this buff, you can either use her charge attack in the idyllic cadenza state, or consume a chord with either a chain attack, defensive, evasive, or quick assists. However, in order to get the full 1,200 buff, she needs a maximum of 3,429 attack, which is pretty high. But achieving this without her signature is actually possible. Just note, this scales off her initial out-of-battle attack, so in-battle attack buffs won't count towards this buff, as her additional ability is activated by having an attack or anomaly agent in the team. This ability allows Miss Yao to follow up with 1 additional tremulo and 3 tone cluster attacks if she triggers a perfect assist or uses charge attacks during the idyllic cadenza state, meaning with this ability active, she can do a total of 8 off-field attacks after consuming 1 chord. And consuming all 4 chords lets her deal up to 32 off-field attacks in the span of 12 seconds. Now, these won't really deal big damage unless you invest in some crit stats, but all of these off-field attacks can actually apply Ether Anomaly at a decent rate, so it's pretty good for disorder-oriented comps. And for ability priority, I recommend leveling her special and core skill first, then her ult, then her basics, then her assists, and finally her dodge. But you could just ignore her dodge because she spends most of her time singing while immune anyway, so you'll never really need it. But with her kit out of the way, let's talk about her Mindscapes. Her M1 gives her 1000 decibels when she enters battle, and her ult gives allies the Song of Protection buff, which gets consumed when attacked to give 1 second of invulnerability, while also allowing her attacks to reduce all attribute res by 6%, stacking up to 3 times for 30 seconds, with every attack resetting its duration. This Mindscape is pretty good for increasing total team damage with its 18% res shred. And it's also good for face tanking heavy hitting attacks like this boss's nuke if you can't kill its Zahondo in time. Her M2 on the other hand increases her buff's attack scaling multiplier by 19% and increases its cap by 400. And it also allows her to launch 1 additional Tremolo and 3 Tone Cluster attacks while allies switch in using a chain, defensive, evasive, or quick assist. This increases her core pass's buff cap to a whopping 1600 attack, while also making it easier to reach since she only needs 2963 attack to get the full buff. Cause her buff now scales off 54% of her attack because of the 19% increase from this Mindscape. This also increases the number of off-field attacks when consuming 1 cord, going from 8 attacks to a total of 12 attacks. While her M4 allows her to trigger a quick assist after using a chain attack or ult even if she doesn't have a cord. It also reduces the interval for quick assist to 1 second after hitting an enemy. And while she's in her idyllic cadenza state, she provides different quick assist buffs to units depending on their class. For attack units, their next quick assist deals extra damage equal to 300% of Astra Yao's attack. For anomaly units, their next quick assist will have 50% increased anomaly buildup. And for stun units, their next quick assist will deal 50% more days. And finally, her M6, while in the idyllic cadenza state, increases the damage multiplier of Tremolo and Tone Cluster attacks by 200%, and their crit rate increases by 80%. And every 10 seconds when triggering a precise assist, she follows up with a charge BA3 that also has an increased 80% crit rate. This Mindscape is mainly for increasing her own damage output, so if you only care about her supportive utility, this Mindscape isn't really necessary. And with her Mindscapes out of the way, let's talk about her possible Wenjins. Miss Yao's signature Wenjin, Elegant Vanity, gives her 30% bonus attack while giving her 5 bonus energy every time a chain attack, quick, defensive, or evasive assist is triggered, and gives the party a 10% damage buff stacking up to 2 times whenever she consumes 25 energy for 20 seconds, which can be refreshed. This engine not only helps her reach her high attack stat goal, but also allows her to get cords faster and more reliably without 5 bonus energy from assists. And that 20% damage buff is nice for buffing overall team damage, but it isn't too notable since you can get similar buffs to increase party damage from other Wenjins. But with that being said, a good alternative would be 𝐀𝐒𝐓𝐑𝐀. Not only does it give 50% energy regen, it also provides a party-wide stacking attack buff for 8 seconds per stack, with it giving 10% at R1 to 16% bonus attack at R5 at max stacks. This Wenjin with its ER main stat of course helps her get her cords way faster, and getting its buff is not too hard because it only requires an ally to hit an enemy to get a stack. This is a good general use option that can be used in both quick swap comps or comps with field time hungry DPSs, seeing how its buff isn't too short. This is a good general use option that can be used in both quick swap comps or comps with field time hungry DPSs, seeing how its buff isn't too short. 𝐀𝐒𝐓𝐑𝐀 Vault is also another really good option. Not only does it give 50% energy regen, it also provides a 15% to 24% damage buff and a 0.5 to 0.8 ER per second for 2 seconds for hitting enemies with her off-field attacks. This Wenjin with its ER main stat helps her get her cords faster, but with it also giving ER in its passive, it actually lets you get cords way faster than 𝐀𝐒𝐓𝐑𝐀. This Wenjin is actually very comparable to her signature, with its damage buff only being 10% less than her signature at R1 and 4% more at R5. So if damage percent is all you're after, no need to go after her signature, just use this Wenjin instead. My only gripe about it is that its buff only lasts for 2 seconds, so you constantly need to quick swap using her cords to keep its uptime, which may become a problem if you can't get her cords fast enough during your rotation. Well, that, and I wouldn't really recommend this Wenjin if you plan to run her with field time hungry units like Jade. Another really good option is Bashful Demon. It's the only support Wenjin with an attack main stat, giving 25% bonus attack, which is very useful in reaching her attack stat goal. Aside from this, it also gives a party-wide stacking attack buff for 12 seconds, giving up to 8% at R1 to 12.8 at R5 every time she consumes a cord with her off-field attacks. Now, this attack buff isn't as big as 𝐀𝐒𝐓𝐑𝐀's attack buff, but it lasts longer and its duration refreshes every time she deals an off-field attack. Meaning, as long as you can reliably get one chord within the 12-second duration, you can keep its full uptime. Just because of its buff duration alone, I would recommend this over her other options if you plan to run Miss Yao with field time hungry DPSs. You can also run Weeping Cradle because it has similar effects to Nicole signature. It can give a 10% damage buff for 3 seconds, with a buff increasing by 1.7% every half second, giving up to a 20.2% damage buff just by hitting enemies. But its pen ratio main stat is useless for her, making it harder to build her and get a lot of attack for her stat goals. And you'd also be locked into using an ER slot 6 and the Swing Jazz 2-piece set to get chords reliably to refresh its buff duration. But with possible wengeance out of the way, let's talk about drive discs. The only set that you should consider using is Astral Voice because it was basically made with her playstyle in mind. Not only does it give a bit of attack to help with her attack stat goal, her quick swapping mechanic with quick assists allows you to get its buff rather fast, giving up to a 24% damage bonus to the entire party, which of course is pretty massive, and the fact that she can reliably trigger it is pretty neat. As for the 2-piece set, she has 2 choices. The first is 2-piece Swing Jazz, which of course allows you to build energy and chords faster with its bonus energy regen. And the second is 2-piece Hormone Punk to help her get her attack stat goal. As for which one you should use, well, it depends on the current build, the engine, and drive disc main stats you plan to use. But with our possible drive discs out of the way, let's talk about stats. For main stats, you want attack for slot 4, attack for slot 5, and attack percent or energy for slot 6. As for the slot 6 main stat, well, it depends on the setup you plan to run. You'd want to use attack percent if you plan to run an ER engine like 𝐀𝐒𝐓𝑑𝐀 the Cannon, and Swing Jazz as a 2-piece set. And you'd want to use an ER1 under 3 scenarios. First, if you're using her signature, an energy slot 6 would be better since the massive attack boost you get from its main and base stats allows you to easily reach your attack stat goal with only a few substats. Second is if you plan to run Bashful Demon or Rena signature, an ER slot 6 is a must to reliably build energy for chords. You can also technically run an ER slot 6 if you plan to use Nicole's signature to get chords super fast to help ensure good uptime on the engine's short duration buffs. But you need a metric ton of attack stats to compensate for it, so it's up to you if you want to go that route. As for substats, you mainly want to focus on attack percent first, then flat attack, and finally offensive stats like AP and crit stats are optional if you want to also improve her damage output. Like I said earlier, you need about 3,429 to get her full 1,200 attack buff. The amount of attack substats you need to reach this heavily depends on the setup you're running. And here's a chart showing how much attack percent subs you'll need with some of her setups. Keep in mind, having flat attack substats would lower the number of attack percent subs you'll need, and these numbers are only calculated estimates and not tested with relics in game. I would try to test them, but I still want to keep my sanity intact, so this will have to do for now. But honestly, just get as much attack as you can get, with 3,429 as the max. Missing 50 or so from her 1,200 attack buff isn't gonna change too much anyway. Remember, RNG is not that friendly. As for crit stats, there's really no need to go out of your way to get some, since you'd need quite a bit to make her off-field attacks deal a lot of damage. But Anomaly Proficiency, on the other hand, could actually be pretty useful, especially for Disorder or Anomaly comps, because her off-field attacks can actually apply Ether Anomaly at a decent rate, so AP would help in improving her Disorder and Anomaly damage by quite a bit. With her stats out of the way, let's talk about possible teammates. 𝐻𝐿's fiancé Miyabi of course synergizes extremely well with Miss Yao. Not only do they activate each other's bonus abilities, but Miss Yao's plethora of offensive buffs enables Miyabi to deal a ton of damage. And seeing how Miyabi does want to be played in a more quick swappy playstyle, Miss Yao enables you to quick swap with more ease, while also being able to squeeze in a bit more damage from Miyabi since you're using quick assist to swap in units. And this isn't even considering that Miss Yao can apply Ether Anomaly at a decent rate with Frostburn active, which also makes getting disorders to charge Miyabi's charge attacks a bit easier. Everything I just said applies to Yanagi as well. Just like with Miyabi, Miss Yao enables her to deal a lot more damage with her buffs, while also enabling a quick swap Yanagi playstyle to be played a bit more smoothly and with less hassle than if you were to have Rina as the support instead of Miss Yao. DPSs like Harumasa, Zhu Yuwen, and Jane of course all benefit from Miss Yao's damage increasing buffs. But the more important thing is that she synergizes extremely well with certain portions of their kit. In Zhu Yuwen's case, Miss Yao enables her to reload bullets a lot faster using her quick assist mechanic and her ult's chain attack procs. She also enables a bit more field time for Zhu Yuan due to all the quick assists and her having bullets more often. As for Harumasa, he benefits a lot from the chain attack triggers from Miss Yao's ult generating electro quivers, allowing for big bursts of damage if timed correctly. But aside from this, Miss Yao also allows for longer Harumasa combos than if you were to have Rina as the support due to her buffs lasting longer than Rina's. And of course, she also makes quick swapping in his damage rotations a bit smoother. As for Jane, she doesn't benefit way too much from Miss Yao's quick swapping mechanic since she does want to stay on field for a long time. But she does benefit significantly from her damage and attack buffs. She also appreciates the chain attacks from Miss Yao's ult, allowing her to get her passion state easier. And if you time it right, you can also extend the duration of her passion state, allowing for more on-field time for Jane. Lastly, Miss Yao also works with her bodyguard Hayasaka. Evelyn. Seeing how she is also a DPS, she'll definitely benefit from Kaguya-sama's offensive buffs. But cause not too much info about her kit has been officially released, I'll refrain from talking too much about her. Now, the DPSs I mentioned are only some of the DPS characters she can work with. You can also use her with characters like Piper, Corrin, Ellen, S11, Billy, Nekomata, etc. This is due to the nature of her buffs being of benefit to any DPS unit. So my point is, you can use her with just about anyone. With her possible teammates out of the way, let's cook up some teams. Now, before we cook up some teams, just note you need at least one of the characters shown in screen to activate her additional ability. And as usual, just pick a bang boo that would suit the party. But with that being said, her best team right now is a quick swap comp with Miyabi and either Yanagi or Bernice, with Miss Yao being a replacement to either Caesar or Rina in this team. And I'd say in terms of enabling quick swapping performance, Miss Yao is better than the two for this comp. Miss Yao makes quick swapping a lot more comfortable, allowing for smoother transitions between Miyabi and Yanagi, while also allowing you to squeeze in a bit more damage while doing so due to her quick assists. And with her decent rate of building Ether Anomaly combined with Frostburn, she can also trigger occasional disorders to help charge Miyabi's charge attack, while also dealing good damage with the anomaly and disorder she triggered. She also provides a lot more offensive buffs compared to Rina, which of course allows her more damage. But the most important thing is, with Miss Yao, you won't have to worry as much about keeping an eye on buff timers since her buffs last pretty long. Now, she may not provide the same level of comfort as Caesar with her shields, but she does provide a bit of comfort in this comp by making rotation smoother and having heals to sustain the party. But in terms of raw damage output, this team outputs so much damage that it has no trouble curb stomping and clearing any content in the game. Other really good comps you can run with Miss Yao is an Anomaly or Disorder comp with either Yanagi or Jane as her DPS. In the Yanagi Disorder comp, Miss Yao replaces Rina and is generally a very good upgrade to her for these comps. The way you play it is generally the same. You either on-field Yanagi and have Bernice apply fire off-field, or you quick swap to have Bernice to apply fire anomaly faster. Generally, quick swapping will result in more damage since you can get disorders out faster. And like I said, she does make this smoother since you only swap between Yanagi and Bernice. Plus, since Miss Yao's 20% damage buff is applied to the whole party, it also allows Bernice to deal quite a bit more extra damage while off-field. Overall, this comp is capable of dishing out massive amounts of disorder and anomaly damage due to Miss Yao's buffs while also providing comfort with her supportive utility. As for the Jane comp, well, you can play it as any other Jane comp. You on-field Jane to apply Assault Anomaly and deal damage. There are two versions of this comp, which is the Disorder version with Bernice and the Hyper Carry version. With the Disorder version, you can technically play it like a Yanagi Disorder comp and constantly quick swap between Bernice and Jane to get more disorders and damage out. Though you don't really need to do this since Jane already does a lot of damage without doing so due to her Assault Anomalies. And as we all know, Jane appreciates a bit more field time, so you can just play her like you usually would. So in this comp, you'd only use Miss Yao's quick swaps to refresh her attack buff and Bernice's afterburn meter. Now sadly, since you're kicking out a stunner or Caesar to make room for Astra Yao in this comp, you'll get less chain attacks from stuns, which could affect uptime on Jane's passion state. But Jane's ult and the chain attacks from Miss Yao's ult should be able to make up for it as long as you time it right. As for the Hyper Carry version, since you're not using Bernice in this comp, you have room to run a buffer like Setter Lucy, a stunner like Coletta, or run Caesar who combines best of both worlds. Now you'd play this comp how you'd normally play Jane, which is on-field with no real need to incorporate quick swapping. Meaning, you'll barely use Miss Yao's quick swap mechanic and the only time you'll do so is to refresh buffs. The cool thing is, if you run this comp with either Caesar or Coletta, you can potentially extend Jane's passion state for an extremely long time. This is due to the chain attacks from the stuns and Miss Yao's ult combined with Jane's own ult. Now if you're wondering if Astra Yao is a major upgrade to Jane's previous best comps, well, not really. I found that it performed on par with the same comps if Caesar was still in it instead of Miss Yao. And Caesar does provide shields, so I believe she's still better in this case. And finally, you can also run a burst damage comp with Harumasa or Zhu Yuan as her DPS, and a stunner like King-Yi, Anvi, or 𝐀𝐒𝐓𝐑𝐀, with King-Yi of course being the best choice. In the Zhu Yuan comp, Miss Yao replaces Nicole as your primary support, and personally I consider her as a big upgrade over Nicole. Now some people would say otherwise, since Nicole's defense shred and bonus ether damage is already a game changer for this comp. But in Miss Yao's case, she may not have a big defense shred, but she makes up for it by having more buffs while also having the ability to sustain the party, which brings out a bit more comfort in this comp. Not only that, in this comp she also enables more field time for Zhu Yuan by giving her more opportunities to reload her gun by using Miss Yao's quick assist and chain attack procs, which of course results in more damage. So just for the major buffs and increased Zhu Yuan field time alone, I personally think Miss Yao is a big upgrade to Nicole. And that's not even considering the massive amounts of damage Zhu Yuan deals in this comp, which of course enables her to clear just about any content just fine. As for the Harumasa team, you'll be using Astra Yao as a replacement for Rina. Well, there's not too much to say about it really, except that it performs similarly to the Zhu Yuan comp, with Miss Yao also providing similar benefits to Harumasa. And like I keep saying, replacing Rina makes running this comp easier and smoother while also enabling more damage due to Miss Yao's quick swap mechanic and better buff coverage. And because Astra Yao's buffs last longer than Rina's, it allows you to do longer combos with Harumasa, which if combined with her chain attack procs generating quivers, it opens up the possibility of more field time for Harumasa to deal high amounts of burst damage. But of course, not everyone may have some of the units I just mentioned, so I cooked up some pretty decent alternatives you can run with some budget and beginner-friendly options included. But that's about it because I'm beginning to lose my voice. But there's just one last question.
Is she a must pull?
Well, it honestly depends on your account. If you already have Caesar and are satisfied with the performance of her and other supports in your teams, well, not really. In this case, it'll be better to roll for someone that would benefit your account more. However, in my humble opinion, it's very difficult to say she isn't a must-pull. Usually in these type of games, universal supports like her usually have insane value since they can be used in a lot of teams for a very long time, unlike DPSs which tend to get power crept a lot. And like I said, she's an extremely versatile support that can fit in just about any team and enable just about any DPS to deal big damage. She makes quick swapping so much smoother while also improving the performance of a lot of comps because of it. Plus, she's also relatively easy to build, only needing energy regen and attack. So with that all combined, she's definitely a unit that will benefit both new and old players alike. And seeing how she's very similar to a certain songbird from a certain game, her possible future value could become even higher as more units she can support comes out. But at the end of the day though, if you like Astra Yao, pull for her, and if you don't, well, don't. Personally, I would be rolling for the pretty songbird because well, it's her world after all. Wait, wrong character. In all seriousness though, I'm mainly pulling for her because she's adorable, but make sure to tell me what you think about her in the comments below, and don't forget to hit me with a like and a sub.